Hey, what's up? My name is Sheg, but you can call me Sheg, and I want to share with you a story from the Bible about how to get your prayers answered based on the passage from Genesis chapter 32, verse 22 to 31. In that account, there's a man named Jacob who got in one of the strangest yet most memorable fights of his life at what was perhaps the lowest point of his life. Now, one of the first things you need to know about Jacob is that his life has been marked by some deep-seated family hostilities. So he was his father's second favorite child, which is not a bad spot to have, except for the fact that his father Isaac had only 2 sons. And to make matters worse, on the night when we meet him in Genesis chapter 32, he's being hunted by his older brother because of some beef that took place 20 years earlier. So on the night before this inevitable confrontation with his brother, out of nowhere, this heavenly stranger comes to visit him at his tent and then just starts wrestling with him. There's no explanation. The guy just shows up and starts wrestling with Jacob, who, by the way, is at his lowest point emotionally. Now, Jacob doesn't have much of an option here except to react and fight back. It's actually a very ugly fight because verse 25 says, "When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of its socket." Ouch! But here's what's even crazier. The next verse says, in spite of his injury, Jacob would not let the man go and still locked onto him tightly. Why? Well, that's because at some point during the fight, it dawns on Jacob that the man that he's wrestling is God himself, appearing in a human form. This is not improbable at all. God had done it at least once in Genesis chapter 18 with a man named Abraham. Now consider Jacob for a moment, because this was no ordinary fight. This was the moment he had been waiting for his whole life. Finally, in his presence is the God of his father Isaac, the God of his grandfather Abraham, God who had promised that he would bless him, he would make him great, and in fact would make an entire nation out of him. It's this recognition, the presence of God, that causes Jacob to suddenly go from defensive grappling to stubbornly holding on and saying, "I am not letting you go until you bless me. I don't care if we're gonna be here all night. I'm not letting you go until you change my story." So here's what we can learn from this story. Genesis 32 serves as a metaphor for what persistence in prayer should look like. In other words, pray till you experience a breakthrough, or at least until God gives you peace about what it is you're seeking him for. I think too often we throw a shout out to God about a matter in our lives, and when we don't get an answer within the next few days, we wonder why God is not moving more powerfully in our lives. Now, let me be clear. God is not reluctant to bless you. We don't wrestle with God in prayer because we're trying to grab something from his hand that he's unwilling to give. No, but rather persistence in prayer, wrestling with God in prayer, is what God uses to shape our character to receive whatever blessing he has in store for us. After that fight, God actually gives him a new name, Israel, which means one who strives with God, triumphant with God. So God just essentially said, you will no longer be identified by those false labels from your ugly past. So whatever it is that you're praying about, consider the fact that God may not be saying no, but rather God may very well be telling you, keep seeking my face, for I am doing in you, even now, much more than you're asking me for. May the Lord God of heaven bless your prayer life. Thanks for listening. Check out my YouTube channel and please subscribe to it. The link is either in my bio, on top of this video, to the side, or at the bottom. God bless you.